Thunderation! Welcome to Push to Shout, episode 83, reporting live from a thunderstorm. I'm Mike.
I'm waiting for the day where, well, now it's not going to happen because I'm going to tell you about it, but I've always wondered, we sit there in silence for about 5 seconds as you play your little intro music, and we're just sitting there in silence looking at each other, and I've always wondered if you would just not say anything and just let us go live. You sit there and just wait for the music to end. And I'm surprised you haven't done it. And now you can't because I've already ruined the joke.
I could do it. It would just not be as funny.
Yeah.
And just be more sadistic. Which is what we're all about. Welcome to Push to Shout. This is a podcast that me and this guy up here, we do. We talk, we look at you with our eyes and faces, and we talk about video games. Skippy, did you play a video game? What is a video game?
I've played some video games. Video games are a form of media in which you interact with an electronic.
Okay, no one cares. Jesus, this guy.
I've played some games, but no new ones. I played some more Doom. It seems still
what part are you
all
at?
Right. I just got out of hell.
Okay.
For the first time. I'm sure you go back.
Yeah,
buddy.
It
It's
really
a good
is.
Game. Continues to be good. It continues to take forever to launch. I have to wait 2 or 3 minutes.
Really?
Just with nothing.
Did you ever update the drivers?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Something's fucked up with it. But whatever. Yeah, that's good. I've played some more Dirt Rally. That's good. I've played some more Rocket League, and that's good. And I've got nothing left to say about any of those things.
Yeah, I basically feel the same way, except for one exception. I mean, I've just been playing a lot of games I've already played, like Overwatch and Rhythm Heaven, and nothing new to say there, really. I do want to say, I don't know, I'm talking like this, but Overwatch added all that, Summer Olympics stuff. They don't call it the Olympics because that's trademarked, so they call it the Summer Games. The Overwatch 2016 Summer Games. And it's done the impossible. It's added a Zarya skin that I can tolerate to look at. So that's a pretty big, important update. They managed to make Tracer look even more annoying. She has a clock on her chest that says 1337, which is... Yeah, it's very, very funny.
That's
classic
awful.
Joke. No, I think it's great.
Yeah.
It's like a blast from the past, which is where she's from. Because she's...
Is she a time traveler?
She is. I guess that's the point. Maybe that's what they're going for. They're digging up ancient memes like Late Speak, and she's a time traveler from the year 2003.
Okay, well, I guess that makes sense then. Okay, I can...
It's not. She's not actually.
That.
She's not.
I thought it. I mean, the fact that is she a time traveler or is she not?
Yeah, but
sense. It would make sense if she was.
Well, I don't think that's what they were going for. I think it's a clock because she's a time traveler, but it's 133. That is us. That is what we bring to the table as creative dynamos. That's not there. We put that there.
Hire us, Blizzard.
We added that. It's called adding context, which is what we, as genius writers, do. I did play a good game, though. A good new game. And it's called Abzu.
I've heard much about it.
And you're a cat thing.
I know that's not true.
You're a cat-looking thing. Give me that much. And you're swimming through the
you look
ocean.
like a scuba diver to me.
Well, yeah, but you got little pointy, kind of cat-looking ears, and it kind of looks like a cat. Anyway, it's made... I don't know how much of the team carried over, but I'm pretty sure it's the art director on Journey and the musician.
Yes, it is the art director. And it has to be the musician because the music sounds exactly the same. It has to be. I forgot his name, but he's... Yeah. Wintory. Austin Wintory?
Yep, that's it.
I don't know where I pulled that out of.
So yeah, I bought that game and I played it.
How is it?
Yeah, it's... I mean, just immediately, it's not as good as Journey. When I finished Journey for the first time, it was like a real heavy thing where I just had to admire it for a second.
Yeah.
And Abzu was just really beautiful on every level, but it didn't quite have the same, like, I don't know. It's not. Is it a story? I guess it's the story of Journey.
Journey has the story that you're uncovering of like some sort of civilization, a very very shallow story told on the walls or whatever, like the murals of the city rising and falling and the war happening.
That's not really what I
But,
mean by the story. I mean, like, the thing that you actually play through.
The actual journey.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think.
I mean, I wouldn't call it a story, but there's definitely an arc there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of what makes this true, and I haven't even said much about Abzu yet, but in Journey, the first thing you see is the mountain, and you can see it the whole time. You're always moving towards it, and from the very beginning you have one goal. Abzu kind of starts out the same way, where it starts above the water and it kind of zooms all the way through it, and you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the ocean. That scene alone is really, really cool. It looks like you're going into space, and it's just really beautiful in every way. And then it shows some, like, purple glowing thing at the bottom of the ocean, like a mechanical thing. And that's where you're trying to get to. But you don't, like, swim directly down to it or anything. You kind of...
Right.
It's like you're swimming around these areas and kind of going deeper, and then you get into these, like, mechanical things that suck you in, and then you go down portals. You go to a, like, hub area where you're swimming above the water, like in the stars, and it's really cool, but it's like you're just warping around a little bit, and it doesn't have that same, I'm just walking up toward that mountain. Simplicity was good.
Is this the Dark Souls 2 of Journey?
No.
Not as disappointing?
Oh, definitely not. No. It has... it definitely has a lot of flour in it, too. Maybe even more flour than Journey. One thing it's worth noting is that all the fish in the game are real fish. It's not like a zany kind of No Man's Sky creature bestiary that they got going on. It's actual species. Whenever you grab onto fish, which is the thing you can do, you can, like, grab onto the fish and they'll pull you around, and it'll show you the name of the fish, and then you can meditate. This is kind of cool. I think cooler in theory than in practice, because the way it works is you can meditate on these statues, and then you can flip around to individual fish swimming around in the area, and just focus on one of them at a time and see what they're called and what they're doing. But in practice, it's like you try to flip to the next fish, and it's just taking you to every individual fish in, like, a school of fish. So it's like, I don't know what the actual name of the fish was, but, like, trout fin.
Right.
The camera's just jerking around, and you're looking at different trout fins, and you just want to see what the next fish was. But those are completely nitpicking
that just switches
points.
the species instead of the individual fish.
Yeah. But,
whatever.
I mean, it does have some of the emotional oomph of Journey. The shark, in particular, is a very good character. But I think it's not just... Journey was so straightforward and well done, and I don't think this is quite as, like, I don't know, hard-hitting for a number of reasons. But, like, the art obviously is beautiful. Just really fluid to play. Probably the best swimming mechanics in a game, which, you would expect in a game all about swimming.
But games never get that right.
It's true. It defaults the control scheme to inverted. And at first, I didn't really, I don't play games that way. But I found that it actually was a lot easier to swim around when I had the swimming controls inverted.
Right.
I don't know why, but it felt a lot more natural. What is there to really say about it? I mean, you can't, like, re-describe the game, because almost all of the value comes from the presentation and the way it actually looks and moves and sounds.
It doesn't have the multiplayer stuff that Journey has.
That's also true. It doesn't have that.
Right.
That alone, really, connecting with one other person, going on the journey with you, that was pretty big.
The cool part.
Yeah.
Journey, I think.
Definitely.
But I mean, this was part of how I think this is part of what made it cool. But it's kind of sad that, like, some people just don't really get that full experience. Like, maybe they have someone jump in and out of their game, but like when I watched my sister and brother-in-law play it, they had someone jump in for a small section of it, and then they never saw anyone else, and it was like, well, that's disappointing. But the fact that that can happen, like, it wouldn't be the same if they replace it with an AI or anything like that. But yeah, and Abzu's what, like $20?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was happy with it. It was very short, but I was satisfied
good
with what I got out of it.
Yeah.
It's also got the I think the multiplayer in Journey is super, super important, because that seems to be a game about like connecting with other people, and Flower is obviously like nature.
Yeah.
This has also got its eyes on a bigger thing like that in like ecology in the ocean, and that, you know, I don't want to just describe it all, but it does have a kind of aim like that. I just don't think it was necessarily as interesting or like directly translatable into fun gameplay as Journey was, but still like head and shoulders above most little short game experiences like this. I mean, I'm okay with people questioning whether this kind of thing is a game or not, because you're just kind of moving through this thing,
right?
But I didn't mind
Journey,
that.
I mean, there were game things in Journey. There was platforming, a tiny bit of puzzle stuff, and you had to like avoid enemies. So there was some game in there.
I mean, I would call it a game, but whatever. Who cares if it's a game?
Yeah, whatever.
It's a guided adventure through the ocean, and probably one of the coolest things about it is it makes you feel like a fish. And I don't exactly know how to explain how that felt, but it kind of forces you through these different, you know, like that scene in Journey where you're silhouetted against like the sun and everything's golden, and you're kind of hopping along the path,
the
and
music
you see
picks up
exactly,
and you slide down the hill. Yeah.
There's a sequence like that where you're swimming alongside these blue whales, and you're swimming directly down into the ocean, and at first it's just one behind you and you're silhouetted against it, and then like more blue whales start coming by, and then you're going at the same speed as them, and you're like weaving in and out, and it makes you feel like a fish. Oh, one more thing. This is why it's worth getting on PC.
It makes you feel like a fish.
The coolest thing in the game is there are like fish that swim together, but there are also legit schools of fish that are like, you know, hundreds just circling around. You can swim into them and face the camera directly at the fish and like swim against the current of fish. It's honestly incredible. Like the fish, they all swim directly past the camera, and you can see them like parting around you as you try to force your way through. It's really one of the wildest things I've seen in a game, like visually. Really, really cool. You should just watch a clip of that if you're not going to play the game. The schools of fish. Really good school of fish technology. Great work.
Okay.
And that's about all I got to say about Abzu. It was worth my time. It is probably going to be worth yours.
Buy it. Thumbs up.
Okay. What's going on?
That's what you brought to the table?
It's not all about the table. I mean, I saw the World Peace sketches by $1 Million Extreme. They actually got their Adult Swim show.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
What that was. Okay, I was wondering what you were talking about. Okay.
So they got their show on Adult Swim. The first 2 episodes have aired. They're really good.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I lost faith in them almost completely when, like, for 2 years or so, it was basically just Sam Hyde going on probably like half ironic rants about Jews destroying culture. Like,
I don't know what's real and what isn't.
Yeah. World Peace is a return to form. The sketches are just on point. They're so funny. They got everything going for them. That classic editing style where they put care into it to make it exactly just that kind of texture that MDE always had. The bumpers, you can tell that they made the bumpers themselves. It's like all this crazy visual stuff going on. Yeah, it's really neat. And they did almost like a Tim and Eric bedtime stories kind of thing with it. Those were like the longer shows that they made, where it's like one episode 11 minutes long about one thing. So there was an episode, it's like the Wall Show. I don't even remember what it was called, but Sam and Nick are in like these weird ass mechanical rigs, like wearing high heels, and they're running a game show. And it's almost like this assisted living kind of rig where the chairs are like moving up and down mechanically while they're trying to like talk to the contestants.
Okay.
And it's just great. It's a great show. I'm very glad.
Did you not like
that it's working
Kickstarter
out.
TV?
I didn't see KSTV. I didn't pay for it.
I've never like followed MDE closely or anything. Like my experience with them and Sam Hyde has been entirely like random videos.
Yeah.
I remember one. I don't know if this was an official Kickstarter TV video or like a promotional video or what, but there was one video I saw where it begins with about a minute of Sam Hyde pointing at the camera and saying, "If you have not donated to the Kickstarter, do not watch this video. This video is for donors only. If you are not a donor, close out of this video right now." And so he gets through that, and then it's just a video of him going through the drive-thru for like 5 minutes, and it's actually I can't possibly describe what this video is, but I do recommend it. It's look up Sam Hyde drive-thru. It's a good video. I don't even know why it's good. I don't know if I could tell you that, but it's good. It's worth watching. All right. I'll say what I've been doing over the last week, which is non-video game related. First of all, I watched The Big Short.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoyed it. That was pretty good.
Fun movie.
I did struggle, but they have those little segments where they explain complex financial concepts in layman's terms, and that helps with like, okay, now I know what's going on in the movie. But trying in my head to figure out, okay, what's actually going on here? Like, what are they actually buying, and what does it actually mean? That kind of occupied my mind the whole time and distracted me from the movie a little bit, because it doesn't really matter in terms of like actually just watching the movie and getting what's going on the screen. But in my head, I'm like thinking like, well, what does this actually mean? What actually happened? Which is always what happens when something's based on a true story, especially if what I always end up doing is trying to figure out what part of this is fiction and what part is real. And in this case, it was pretty obvious of like the movie acts like nobody knew the financial crisis was going to come, or the housing market was going to crash, more specifically. Nobody knew. They were the only ones that figured it out. When in reality, everyone knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when it was going to happen. And the amazing thing that these guys pulled off was figuring out when it was going to happen and betting all in on that, and almost losing it all because they were wrong by a little less than a year. But yeah, well, it was a great movie. But
I mean, not to get bogged down in the details. Not to get bogged down in the details, but that was part of the thing that pissed off Steve Carell. What the hell is wrong with me?
That's his rapper name.
Okay. One of the things that pisses off Steve Carell's character in that movie is that they were wrong because they should have been right. Like, the only reason they were wrong is because the system was actively misrepresenting the credibility of some of these assets.
They simplified that too, because I know you being in finance, you know that part of the reason prices inflated was because it was going through a squeeze before the crash, which happens a lot, where like everyone's starting to make bets on like what's about to happen, and it can cause some inflation in the prices. They don't explain that. They don't need to explain that. But the way they portray it is a simplified like the system is rigged and that's why this is happening, when in reality it's not just that the system is rigged, which it is to some extent, but the system's also so incredibly complex and so reliant on impossible to understand things that are happening behind the scenes everywhere all at the same time, that shit like that can happen, where it's like the market's crashing but stock prices are going up at the same time. Like, how does that work? What does that mean? And yeah, the movie doesn't need to go into that stuff, but it can be distracting trying to figure out that stuff while you're watching it, obviously.
That's definitely the case with lots of true stories that are about a kind of technical thing, like medical documentaries. They can kind of Big Short's not a documentary, but even like a medical kind of drama, they have to gloss over some of the details, or they just have to throw it out as technobabble that you're not meant to understand, and then restate it. I think that's probably one of the bigger successes of The Big Short, is that it wasn't just like, I don't know, they didn't have a scene where they're like Steve Carell speaking to his wife. It's like, the CDOs are turning belly up. And then the wife goes, "What's a CDO? Listen, all you gotta know is," or like
the exposition is, it's extremely in your face, blunt, on the nose, but it's supposed to be, and they play with that and make it a thing, which is, it was smartly done.
It's definitely smarter done than just having the audience stand in. Wait a minute now. Say that in English, please.
Trying to work it into the story where it doesn't really belong is like, it just doesn't work. Yeah. Speak English, hello?
That is one of my really favorite lines. If you were going to have like any kind of generic movie drinking game, that phrase would have to be on your bingo card. This movie... English, please.
Yeah. Made from like a bad director or like a CSI writer or something like that, this movie could be completely different. You'd have the scene where like the CEO guy who gets in his office and listens to the heavy metal music. Mm-hmm. There would totally be a scene where he does that and he's just typing on his computer and there's like spreadsheets opening up and shit, and then there's like numbers and stuff flying around his head and he's like, but instead the reality of it is he was just in the movie he's looking at Excel spreadsheets and just scrolling down and looking at the stuff like, and that's how it is. So I thought that was pretty good. But anyway, good stuff. And the other thing I watched the full season 1 of Stranger Things. Finally,
it's been a while, so we can probably go like spoilers on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go deep into spoilers in case someone gets hooked by us talking about it. Or
at least not like we don't have to tread so daintily.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the kind of, it's not, well, I don't know, spoilers ahead, but we'll try to keep it light. The first, a lot of the lighter spoilers won't at all ruin the show, I think. But it's a great show. I think the way people are describing it, which is, I don't know if you've heard this, but people are focusing a lot on the fact that it's like a combination of 80s movie techniques, all thrown into a bucket. And I think that's true. Like it very clearly, it wears its influences on its sleeve, and it draws from all sorts of things that are very, very obvious, like E.T. and stuff like that. But I think it's doing it a disservice to describe it that way, because your assumption is that that it doesn't have an identity of its own, that it's just aping something that was great once, and it's trying to rely on nostalgia when it's really not. It's more like it's an honest attempt to make that kind of movie, and I refer to it as a movie because it's less a TV show than a movie. It's a really long movie. The storyline could be compressed into a movie very easily, or even more accurately, 3 different movies that kind of follow 3 different sets of characters that all relate to each other. But yeah, it has an identity of its own. The way that it's directed, its music and everything, they draw inspiration from these 80s techniques, but it's very well done, and it does its own thing very successfully. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I really liked it too. Which you already know, of course. But
yeah,
I had a similar experience, which is I went into Stranger Things. I had no idea what it was or what it was about. I just knew the name, and my little brother wanted me to watch it because he said it was good. And so I didn't know anything, and I could tell it was kind of like some of those movies, but I didn't think too hard about what they were like, and it was never distracting to me. Part of that just might be that I haven't seen too many of those like 80s ragtag group of boys. I haven't seen the Goonies. I haven't seen. I've seen E.T., but
Goonies
like once.
Is a big one. The E.T. and the Goonies are probably like, especially for the kids' storyline, are like huge. Very, very similar stuff. But yeah, I mean, I went in with the expectation, what this thing is something that draws influences from those movies. And so I was kind of looking for that stuff. But even then, it isn't distracting. There's a few scenes where it's like, oh, I see what they're doing here. Like, this is and a few recurring things like the kids' bikes is like a very ET thing, and there's a scene towards the end of the movie where they buy a bunch of items to fight the monster.
Yep.
And they're like setting up the house, and it's like this. It's been done over and over in the 80s, and they do it exactly the way you expect it to be done. They throw a little bit of a surprise in there, but for the most part, it's just like, yep, that's what this is. And yeah, and the whole government thing, like the government going after the kids and them running away from them and stuff. Yeah, that kind of stuff is so obvious where it's getting its inspiration from, but it's not distracting, and it doesn't. I've heard very few people, but there are people out there saying like, well, it's more copying. It's not like paying homage. It's more like just kind of copying that stuff. But I don't
think so.
Yeah, I don't think it copies it to the point where it's like plagiarism or anything. Like it is an homage, but it does its own thing enough to. And the fact that they merge so many different things successfully into one show and do it in a way that actually melds together logically and works and is paced really well is a feat of itself. So yeah,
to return to something you said earlier, one of the things that's worth clarifying is that it's not really like the techniques that seem to be lifted. It doesn't seem to be, it's not like a Kung Fury kind of thing where it's shot to look like it was made in the 80s. It's made using modern cinematic techniques and HD cameras and
except the title sequence was definitely on film, which I loved. It was great. If you pay attention to like the way that they shoot it and the lettering, especially when it's still on the screen, you can see the jitter of the film. It's like, I think it was legit shot on film. I want to look it up and see actually, but
either way,
that's just a small thing.
Right. It doesn't seem like they're going for the this is a throwback kind of presentation. The elements that they're pulling in were clearly featured a lot in movies of that time, like kids on the bikes and encountering a big deal government threat that they can feel courageous because they don't understand how grave it all is, and it's like all that stuff clearly came from that 80s lineage, but the presentation, it's not like a tribute, or it doesn't look like a tribute to 80s movies. It looks like
they looked at
a modern movie that kind of owes something to those older movies.
And it's like they looked at those movies and they said, let's make one of those movies, but not try to be one of those movies. Just let's make that kind of thing, but totally use 2016 techniques. They even had a CGI monster. Like they could have made the monster
rubber,
like a puppet, and they could have said like, well, let's stick with the kind of effects that they would have in the 80s, but they didn't. They just said, well, we've got CGI. It didn't look great. That's one of my complaints about it actually, but like big deal, whatever. It's a show, low budget relatively, so whatever. But yeah, they didn't try to. Yeah, exactly. They didn't try to just say, "Oh, look, it's like one of the Steven Spielberg movies." It's what if Steven Spielberg made a movie in 2016 that was like one of those movies, and plus aliens and E.T. and The Shining and whatever. Like it's all sorts of shit thrown together, and I say thrown together, but it's really immaculately pieced together.
It's woven together.
It's great. Great show. And the soundtrack. God, the soundtrack is amazing. I love it. The original stuff and the licensed stuff is perfect. I love it.
Yeah, it's a fun show, and it doesn't overstay its welcome at all.
Yeah. They say they're making a season 2, and it looks like it might continue on from season 1 because they kind of ended on a open...
Yeah,
not like cliffhanger, but...
Very plainly were leaving things open on purpose.
I would rather them do what's really popular now, which is like Volume 2, where it's like an entirely different story and different cast and everything, but we'll see. Because I just don't know. I don't feel
I'm
like
kind of
season 2 is gonna
skeptical
capture
about
the
a
magic.
season 2 for this show. It seems like so much was just aligned so perfectly for this first season. How new it all was, how fresh the style and.
I'd be really excited if I didn't expect it to be an actual sequel. If it was
right.
We're going to do another Stranger Things and it's going to be something completely different. This time it's going to be whatever, like an even completely different genre or something that's like still kind of mystery, like an X-Files style, like this is just a completely different story. That would be great. But I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if they'll do that.
Without getting too specific, there's 2 parts of the ending that seem to suggest them going off into 2 different ways. There's like, one thing. It seems like it just is there to show you that there's more of these weird things out there. Right. There's a big old world of this stuff, and we've only scratched the surface. So that was one of the little like open ends that they left, which I think sets up a season 2 pretty well because they could do anything with that. There's another little setup that they do that is very character specific, and it actually ropes in several characters that you wouldn't be able to do a season 2 without addressing those points. So
and it could be that they like set it 10 years later or something like that.
Maybe.
Which I could see that working, but still, if they're going to use the same concept of like here's what the threat is, and here's where it's the same town and that kind of thing, then I don't think it would be as interesting.
And that's another thing that experience was the first exposure those people had to the paranormal.
And that was part of what was so interesting about it.
How they react to it. If there's people who've been there, done that, it doesn't work. So who knows? Maybe they've already got the plan. It seems like these Netflix shows, they've already got the whole long con laid out. I don't think there was ever a doubt of a season 2, really.
Maybe they'll do the thing where it's an entirely new cast and everything, and the first couple of episodes they're rediscovering the same threat, but with people who've never seen it before, and they're all freaked out. And then you get the rugged, one of the kids is all grown up and he's got a beard now, and he's been living in a shack outside of town, and everyone thought he was crazy, but it turns out he's right the whole time, and he says, "I know how to kill it. We need to find her. We need to find the girl." I would hate that. I really hope they don't do that kind of thing. I could see it happening though. I could see like Netflix getting saying like, "Well, this worked, and so we need to do more of it." But yeah, we'll see. I love it as a thing on its own.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah, I'm happy with what I got, and I just hope that they handle the next step well.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about No Man's Sky.
Okay, yes. So for the 3rd week in a row, Push a Shout is reporting that No Man's Sky is officially released, and for the first time we have been right, or myself have been correct. I have been the one making these blunders. I apologize. Yes. Okay. So it's out. Did you get it?
No, I didn't get it. Thought about it. I just don't want to pay $60 for it. That's all. And plus, I mean, I could get it and refund it or whatever, but I'm not sure. There's a lot of people having issues with it. There's a lot of people having issues with it freezing or just not running well in general, stuttering. Apparently, it's badly optimized and doesn't work on a lot of machines. So people with 1080s are saying like they're having frame rate issues and stuff. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. It seems like there's just some really weird, like if you lock it at 60 frames per second, it actually caps at like 30 frames or something. And then if you raise it to 90, then it goes to 60. It's like they've just completely fucked up the whole PC side of things. But and I say, I don't know what percentage of players are experiencing that kind of thing. I know a lot of them have just been playing the game with no problem, or at least no complaints. But yeah, that game, I've gone through a roller coaster with that game. Last time I was on, I was saying, yeah, it looks okay, but not good enough to get, and like not what I'm really looking for out of it. I stand by that, but the more I've seen of it, the more I've seen people actually like playing the full game. It seems okay. I can see the appeal of it. I think I could have fun with it. I don't think it's necessarily worth $60, but people were being super negative, especially pre-release when copies were being leaked and people were streaming it. And I remember specifically saying, I was wrong. I remember specifically saying, they said, wait for the day one patch. And I said, well, the day one patch never fixes things. It never significantly changes the game. Like, what you're seeing is what you're getting. Well, it turns out the day one patch was actually pretty significant.
Okay, yeah. I was about to say that, I mean, the fact that there's so many PC problems suggests that they might have actually been telling the truth when they said they needed more time to work on the PC version.
Well, yeah, with the PC version, they needed more time than they gave themselves, I think. But the point is, like, even the PS4 version, before the day one patch, was a completely different game than after the day one patch. The inventory was almost rehauled. Like, you've got way more inventory space, multiple times more inventory space, which is a big deal because it's all about gathering stuff, and you reach your cap really, really soon. So people were streaming this game out, playing with an inventory space that had like a tenth of the space that they would have in the full game, and so they were really frustrated because it's like, oh well, I'm just constantly going into the inventory. When in reality, yeah, it's still very inventory based, but like not nearly as bad as it looked. Another big complaint before release was, well, there's no aim, there's no objective. You get to the center of the galaxy, who cares? It's just like you're just wandering around. The day one patch added what basically amounts to a main quest, like a specific series of planets to follow, with some sort of underlying light storytelling. So that's a huge deal.
That wasn't in the beta at all, or not the beta.
Apparently, that was not in the pre-release version of the game. Some tutorial stuff, I think, was also left out of the pre-release. They changed the way that the moons are rendered. Like they used to have it where every planet's moon had a lot of stuff on it, but then they decided, oh no, moons need to be more barren than planets, and so they made a lot of the moons more barren. So it's more of an interesting thing when you find a moon that actually has stuff on it. So yeah, they actually added a lot of stuff in the day one patch that I think fixed a couple of really major complaints about the game. And yeah, the game seems all right. It doesn't seem great. If I were imagining my perfect No Man's Sky, it would be completely different than what it is.
And probably $30 cheaper.
And well, if it was what I wanted it to be, it could be $60, I think. But what I want it to be is something that they couldn't make with the amount of people and the budget that they were working with, I'm sure. But like, here's my biggest complaint actually, and I don't think most people care, but I do. The ships, when you're flying near the surface of the planet, it only lets you get to a minimum height, and then you have to press a button, and it does an auto landing sequence. And that sucks, because I think a lot of the fun of the game would be flying low to the ground on these strange planets and like exploring them with your ship.
That's what I thought it was all about, actually.
Yeah, kinda, and it's not. So that's pretty disappointing to me. Also, so there's other creatures, and you can interact with them. You can like buy and sell from them. You can buy their ship off of them. Which is interesting. It's more than I thought there would be in that game. I thought that all the ships that you would see would just be empty shells. And there's like different races, and you learn their language and stuff, which is cool. But they're everywhere in the entire game. Like you never run into planets or systems, as far as I can tell, that don't have other species running around in their ships.
Like intelligent species.
Yeah.
So every place is like explored and.
You would think, but you still have the ability to explore stuff and discover it and name it. But like, there's people landing on this planet around you, so that's bizarre. That doesn't make any sense. And I would love it. I would much prefer it if there were little sections of the world that were populated, and then when you actually got out to the unpopulated stuff, it had that feeling of emptiness that is supposed to be. I would think was supposed to be like a concept of the game of like, oh, I'm out here on my own.
I would think so too. Whoa.
And I'm not.
I would not have ever have guessed that they would do that. Like, it seems the entire point is the opposite of that. Where
is that you're exploring for the first time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The planets that you explore, they should feel like massive expanses of uncharted alien territory with flora and fauna that no one in the universe has ever seen before. It shouldn't feel like an airport. Like,
yeah, and that's exactly
what the hell.
There's space stations where there's ships just constantly going and coming from the space station, and that would be cool to have in certain pockets, but and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some systems that are completely uninhabited, but it seems like everywhere that I've seen has had ships and stuff flying around no matter what, pretty much. Which just, yeah, it takes away a lot from the atmosphere, I think. And then and the planets, they're really big, they're really impressive. There's a variety there that a lot of people claim there isn't, but I think, like, a lot of people say, well, it's just, oh, you go to this planet, there's green trees, you go to this planet, there's blue trees. There's more to it than that. You can find really interesting planets, but I don't think it needs more bizarreness. I wish they turned it up to 100, where it's like in Minecraft, sometimes you would have like crazy mountains and stuff form with like big overarching overhangs and a waterfall coming down, and this doesn't usually have that kind of thing. And
I thought that was the whole point of the game, like flying underneath stone arches.
That would be really cool, yeah. But that's not how the game is, and the planets are also, I think, ironically, a little bit too small. From what I've seen, it doesn't look like it has that sense of scale that you would expect from like landing on a new planet. Like there's no big mountains or anything, so you never get like a big view of the planet. You're always down where like the next hill is 100 yards away and you can't see further than that. It's just little things like that add up and like make it not what I want. But yeah, it could be really cool, and from the sounds of it, they're going to add some interesting stuff. Like they're apparently going to add base building and allow you to like get a capital ship and that kind of thing. But I think it's still going to be aimless to the point where it doesn't really matter.
From the look of it, though, it could have been a lot worse.
Oh, people are still acting like it's a disaster, and I don't think it's a disaster at all. It's a fine game that's overpriced, and a lot of people don't think it's overpriced. A lot of people are having a ton of fun with it, and the PC launch has been bad, to say the least. But the game itself, as far as like what the game is and what it features, is pretty much what they advertised. There's been the whole debacle over multiplayer.
Oh, right. Yep.
Specifically said in the past that there's multiplayer, and it doesn't look like there's multiplayer, but nobody's really positive yet whether there is or isn't.
There's just not.
Yeah, it's probably not. But yeah, that's all weird and kind of. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. Did they plan to implement it and then ended up not having the time? Did they lie about it all along? Who knows? But yeah, the game itself seems fine.
Yeah, multiplayer is hard. It's hard to put in a game. It's not as simple as just multiplayer on. So it's totally understandable that something like that could fall apart. But I don't play games like this, the kind of Minecraft. I know it's not Minecraft. I'm not trying to make like a cheap comparison here. I just mean games like that, where you're exploring a world, you're gathering resources, that kind of thing. I never play those alone. Like, except for the first time like I ever played Minecraft. I always play with other people, and we start from the beginning, and then we go through it as far as we want to play. And not being able to do that is a pretty big deal to me. That would have been a huge deciding factor in buying this game.
That's not what their vision of the game has ever been, or what they've ever... So even when Sean Murray has come out and said that there's multiplayer in some way, he's always emphasized along with that comment, like, this is not supposed to be a multiplayer experience. Like, you shouldn't buy this expecting to play with your friends. Like, it's a single-player experience.
Yeah. I have not been keeping a close eye on No Man's Sky, so... I guess what I was saying there,
heads to be a multiplayer thing,
right, is that if I was excited for this and thought it would have that,
said it was, so
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
I'll get it on sale. I think I will.
I might get it on sale too. It looks cool. I keep seeing screenshots of it where like people will find interesting creatures or interesting planets, and it's like, well, that looks really neat, and I would like to, go out there and explore a little bit. But it's not $60 worth. There's just no way. So there you go, and that's the only real like news that I have.
I have a little smidgen of news. Blizzard upgraded the Overwatch servers to 66 tick from 21 tick. Yeah, so now it's actually playable. Like on on a serious level, I say. Not like, I don't know how competitively viable it is, but they've at least made their servers have what they need to actually take like hit detection seriously and have it correspond to people's actual skill. So yeah, that's kind of fun.
There were definitely, like, every time I would play that game, I would notice one or two deaths where it was like, this probably shouldn't have happened.
Right. Like, I'm pretty sure I was behind that wall when the
Exactly.
Roadhog hooked me. That's probably the most obvious thing. But there's also, like, getting shot by Hanzo when you duck behind the wall, or...
Yeah.
Everything's just more accurate now,
cool.
if you put that on.
Alright.
Little
I play that
thing.
game. I haven't played it in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. I took, like, a month off from it, and I just went back to it, no problems, which I think is a good sign for a multiplayer game like this, where you can stand to go back to it after putting it down for a while. Yeah, it's a good game. I also started replaying Cave Story, one of my favorite games. Absolutely love Cave Story.
Played a lot of Cave Story.
Played a lot of Cave Story. So I started another Cave Story playthrough, and it's just as fun as I remember. Great game. Nothing more to say, though, there. I haven't checked in. It's been a long time since I actually had the world record on Wind Fortress in Cave Story, and I'm still peeved about it. And I'm going to tell you why I'm peeved, because I played with one of these. It was actually a PlayStation 3 controller, but I played with a controller to set the world record for that. And as it becomes a matter of like shaving off tiny pixels from boosts, like, it really started to hurt my thumb. I could only do like a few attempts in a row, and it was just, that was the most stressful part of it, like physically. I'm an athlete, this is what I'm trying to say, is just the thumb motion. The guy who beat my world record uses a keyboard where you have multiple fingers devoted to the movement keys instead of one thumb. And that alone, I do not know how to play the game very well with a mouse and keyboard. No, there's no mouse, just the keyboard. But just on like a physical level, it's less stressful to try to manipulate your movement quickly.
Well, it's like trying to imagine like playing CS:GO with a thumbstick for the movement, because you're constantly doing that back and forth movement,
Yeah,
and that's impossible with a thumbstick. With a keyboard, you have to have two fingers to make that kind of movement so that you can instantly go from right to left. So I know exactly what you mean, for sure. That you're at an objective disadvantage.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to relearn how to do it. It's not that important to me to have the world record. And when I started this new playthrough, this has been years now, I just immediately wanted to play with the controller, because until you get to that super, super high level where, like, physical stress on your joints becomes an issue, then it's so much nicer to just sit back with a controller and play a platformer that way. So
I'm willing to bet
fun
you'll
game.
eventually head to the keyboard, though, because you'll want to beat some record.
I don't think so. It's been years since I've lost that record, and I haven't really picked it back up. So yeah, I think my speedrunning days are over. You won't see me getting told or getting asked politely to please be quiet on any couches.
I was thinking about speedrunning. I would love to see a speedrun of the new Doom. I think that could be really interesting.
That'd be sick.
I was thinking about that while playing, because like there's a lot to that game, like as far as like the weapon variety and the enemy variety and everything. Like I could see that being really interesting. But
definitely,
anyway.
And like planning glory kills, because each glory kill would get.
There's a lot of strategy
that'd be
behind,
cool.
like on how you kill things and what you kill them with and that kind of thing. For sure, it would be interesting.
It also seems like, because when I would fail encounters and restart them, enemies spawn in the same places, everything plays out exactly the same well.
Definitely.
You could memorize the whole game.
Yeah. I think
that'd be cool.
Obviously, the monsters respond to where you are and stuff, so there's some AI there, but it seems like it's consistent. And I think the thing that would make it more interesting than like watching like the original Doom, like a speed run of that, is like I think the original Doom, for the most part, not always, but for the most part, like you can kind of run through a lot of the enemies. You know?
You don't have to fight.
And this one, it puts you in arenas constantly where like the whole objective is to kill everything there until you open up the door. So it would like force some actual gameplay rather than just a run through. Like
those are always the best speedruns
or something. Yeah, definitely.
It's like the worst speedruns even though Ocarina of Time is pretty cool, just because it's so popular and seeing it get completely broken by speedrunners is cool. But really, it's not all that fun to watch somebody hop sideways for a couple
it's
hours.
Interesting in concept, but to actually watch it is not. I will say, like, speedruns, like if you look up like an original Half-Life 2 has some interesting ones too, where like they've just sectioned it off and they've perfected each section, like each quick save. That shit, they never fight the enemies, but that shit is really interesting to like they're just literally flying through the levels.
Yeah. Especially with how broken the physics in that are, where you can just go infinitely fast if you do it right. Yeah.
So that can be interesting, but I'd also like to see one where like they're actually having to play the actual game.
Yes. Those are always the best.
Can be surprisingly fun to watch. All right, well, is that it?
Yeah, that's all I have. That's all I have on the docket. Well, guys, we survived the Thunderation. I'm very glad at our emergency preparedness efforts, though. They will continue into next week when we discuss probably 1 to 2 more video games if we're lucky. So
possibly, yeah.
Tune in. Actually, are there any like big events? But just before we shutter the doors for tonight, is there anything coming up that we should be aware of? I heard a rumor that Rockstar is going to be at a PlayStation conference thing on September 7th. A little birdie told me, a random user on Twitter who has apparently leaked things in the past, but is kind of a mixed track record.
Back at E3, there was the rumor that I choose to believe, which is that there was going to be a Red Dead trailer, Red Dead Redemption 2 or Red Dead something else, and that they pulled it because of the Orlando shooting, because it had like a scene in the trailer or the gameplay or whatever where they like shot up a bar or something like that. So they decided to just change it to a different game. I don't know if I believe it, but I choose to believe it. I try to believe it.
I choose to believe that there is more Red Dead coming my way.
Don't make another Red Dead. I do know that. I just hope it's soon.
I watched that scene where John Marston rides back to his house while Compass plays. Yep. And God, that's the best game they've made. I want to play that
game again. I want it to come out on PC because I don't want to play it on the stupid 360.
Definitely not. Okay.
I would love it. God, I would love it if they gave it the GTA 5. I know this won't happen. I would love it if they gave it the GTA 5 treatment. And they just fucking redid everything and made it amazing.
That'd be too good to be true.
I need to not even tease that idea. But
so long as they find a way to monetize that multiplayer, then maybe we have a chance.
Yeah, true.
Getting like, I don't know, what would they have in the Old West instead of Megalodon shark cards that you could buy?
Yeah.
Pesos, you could get some shiny pesos in the cash shop. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Push your shout out.